Everyone, welcome back to Freedom to Run, which is our series on YouTube with Freedom Running Club, where we basically just share stories about, our athletes and the progress that they've had and document some of their journeys. And today we're here with Lee, who's been training with us for just a little bit less than a year, and you've really just developed some great fitness and delivered some incredible performances. Most recently here in the Houston Half Marathon with a new PR of 2:05 even, cutting over 10 minutes off of your PR that you set just a couple of weeks before that at the Mount Dora Marathon, finishing as the fastest female runner over 70 in this really premier event with just so many people doing it. So over the past years, Lee, you've PR'd in your 5K, your 10K, and your 10 miler, as well as this half marathon, and really cut that marathon time from before joining with us. And in total, you've dropped, geez, 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 3 seconds in all of these different races, which is just an amazing transformation here in less than a year. Lee, how are you feeling? I know the race wasn't that long ago. How you feeling recovery wise?
I feel like I'm basically very recovered. I'm ready to go again. I'm getting antsy, so I don't want to spend too much time recovering.
Understood. Yeah, and we chatted about this the other day about I want to make sure you're fully recovered before we do anything. We got some big goals here for your next marathon. But yeah, Lee's ready to go, which is great. No issues, which is fantastic. So let's just jump right into it, Lee. I want to start with when you started working with Les. Take us back to when you did start working with Freedom Running Club. Kind of where were you both physically, emotionally, pain wise, but also just like in terms of you knew you had some goals that you really wanted to hit. Where were you in all those different areas?
I think at that time I was slowly starting to work my courage up to signing up for another marathon. Over the previous years, the last marathon was a terrible experience for me. I remember during the last couple of miles, thinking I'm never going to do this again. This is horrible. I was actually crying during the last couple of miles, and it was a very humbling experience. But it took me a couple of years to emotionally get over that. And physically, I was doing shorter races again, but I never had the courage to try another marathon. And gradually, I guess I got over it enough to where the thought of it started creeping back in again. Maybe I could try this again. Maybe I'm ready again. And I just knew if I was going to do it, I couldn't do it on my own. This time I needed extra help. And that's when I came to you.
And that was the Twin City Marathon. Was that the last one you had done before?
Yeah.
Which is in your
Yeah.
home state there. And I guess just for you, you'd worked up that courage and everything. Where were you just in terms of, feeling stuck with that? I know you hadn't attempted a marathon, but with some of these other races, what was that experience like for you? You've been running for a really long time. You run a lot of races. What was that just like feeling kind of that like, can I run this marathon again? Can I run these PRs? What was that experience like for you?
Up until that time, I was always going by generic training plans. I was buying books, I was buying magazines, I was reading online different training plans for different distances, but they were always the generic style of training, and I would follow them. But there were also always portions where I didn't know what to do. What did they mean? I need more information. Tell me more. And I was just guessing at what do they mean by this. And also, I wasn't varying my paces. I was always running the same, I guess what a lot of people do. I do the same thing over and over again. My paces weren't changing. I wasn't challenging myself. And I finally realized I need to do something different. And that's when I decided I had to work up my courage to come to you and ask for help. Someone my age that was hard to do. I didn't know if I was gonna embarrass myself, but I did it anyway.
And you certainly haven't embarrassed yourself at all. But I guess when we talk about this, and I think one of the big things I know was the pace that we changed for you. But what were some of the first changes that you kind of saw with your training that maybe surprised you, but also helped you along the way?
Well, I think the first thing that was the biggest adjustment for me was learning to run by time, which is what you taught. Up until that time, every day my goal was today I'm going to run 5 miles. Today I'm going to run 8 miles. It was always by the mile, and changing to time was a huge switch for me. But now I'm so used to it, I don't even think about it anymore. if someone asked me how many miles are you running today, and my reply would always be, today I'm running an hour. That's my standard. My response is by time, not by miles. Um, then after working with you, you would designate the paces to run each day. And I was never used to that. Each day before working with you, I would go out and run just whatever happened to be that day, and never thinking about what should I be doing as far as the pace. And so that was a big adjustment, trying to stick within that pace range that you designated, and realizing back then, not changing my paces, I didn't realize I was not doing myself any favors by just doing the same thing over and over again. Then I guess I appreciated learning the variety of different workouts that you provided, which I didn't have very much of. I didn't challenge myself. I didn't do much different than what I followed in the training plans. And some of them were a little better than others, but I guess overall, the variety that you provided was very beneficial.
And how did you see yourself kind of respond to those intensities? How did you feel your body kind of adapting to it? And obviously you saw the time start to drop, but how did you just feel in terms of everything too?
I guess after a while, I started noticing that my aerobic capacity was improving, and it happened very slowly, that I didn't at the time didn't realize it was happening. I didn't finish each workout huffing and puffing and just feeling like I have to go lay down the rest of the day because I'm so tired. But that took me back to remembering, before working with you, no matter what distance I would run in races, I would always finish. I would struggle to get to the finish line, and once I crossed the finish line, I'm sure over your years of running, you've seen this. I would cross the finish line and get the dry heaves, and it happened so many times, and that's embarrassing. But it was awfully. It was an awful thing to happen, and at that time I didn't realize that was a product of poor training, improper training. Um, I didn't know it at the time, but there was another side effect that happened that I notice now during, again, no matter what the distance was in a race, I would get side stitches. And I don't know if you ever had that experience, but anybody who's had side stitches knows how incredibly painful that is. And that happened to me many times. And luckily I don't have that anymore. So that's another benefit of training with you. I don't have any of those issues anymore. So that I'm grateful for. Sometimes I forget to remember what you used to be like. I'm not like that anymore. So I'm happy about that.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because these are like small micro changes that happen where, it's almost, I always like to recommend people to almost like write down what they're doing kind of slowly, because sometimes it's happening in that gradual process that it's changed so much that you don't even realize it. But for you, it wasn't just like that
Mhm.
reduction in the pain, the improvement in your aerobic capacity. I mean, like I said, cutting a total of 1 hour, 24 minutes and 3 seconds off of all these different distances that you've had. If you could point to that one thing, what do you really think was the biggest difference though for you in that kind of improvement? If you could point to one thing.
I guess I would stick with that aerobic capacity, just being able to hang in there longer. I would finish either a workout or a race and not be huffing and puffing and feeling like this, I'm going to die from this. But I think that's the biggest benefit that I feel.
Awesome. Well, you've had a ton of breakthroughs in the last, a little bit less than a year you worked with us, but that big breakthrough here at the Houston Marathon, going to that marathon, you've just at a PR a couple of weeks before at a very hilly course in Mount Dora. Houston's known for being fast. What was your sort of goal going into this? I know we talked about it before, but for you personally, what did you think was possible going into it?
Well, I was hoping to at least finish with the same time. I was afraid to hope for more, but I know Houston was a very flat course. So I was, if not the same finish, I was hoping for maybe 2 or 3 minutes faster. I would have been happy with 2 or 3 minutes improvement. And turned out I surprised myself. I was afraid to hope for too much more because I didn't want to get myself all set up for disappointment if I didn't, but I was very surprised.
Well, was there a point during the race though where you really realized like, wow, I'm on track for something special, or was it really just seeing that final time when you crossed the finish line?
Truthfully, the whole distance, I had no idea what my finish time was going to be. At the beginning, I just told myself I had this certain pace that I was in, I think in mile two, I don't know, it was around a 9:30 pace. And I just thought, well, this feels good. I hope I can, let's see how long I can stay there. Just try to stay with that. And I didn't know how long I could hold on to it, but I thought I'll just see what, I had no idea what that meant as a finish time at 9:30 pace. If I stayed that way, I didn't know. All I knew was that's what was in my head, and I was going to try and stay with that. Um, there's that saying, expect the unexpected. I've learned from so many races that anything can happen, no matter what the distance, anything can happen in a race. And this is a fine example of something that unexpected happened. We got to mile two. I guess a side note, the Houston Marathon, the way they run that race, the marathon and the half marathon people all start together, which I thought was weird. But they put you in corrals and they have the wave start, so it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was still crowded, but it was manageable. But so I got to mile two, and I came up behind two pacers that were running together. They were marathon pacers, and I looked at their sign and it said 4:20, and they were the 4 hour 20 minute marathon pacers. And I thought, well, normally anytime I would see that, I would right away tell myself, you can't do that, that's too fast, that's too much for you, don't even think about it. But I was right next to them, and I thought, well, I'll see how long I can stay with them before I fall apart. And surprisingly, I stayed with them. And after about maybe 10 minutes, I found myself drifting ahead of them. And I looked back and I thought, what are you doing? Get back there with them. Don't be stupid. Stay with the 4:20 pacers. So I went back and I stayed with them, and it kept happening. Like 3 times I would find myself getting ahead of them, and I would tell myself, go back there and stay with them. Don't be stupid. But I knew that course at mile 7.5, that's where the split happens. The half marathon goes straight and the marathon people turn right. So I knew at that point I was going to lose them anyway, and I would be on my own. So I finally, after about the 4th time that I kept getting ahead of them, I just decided, well, maybe you can do this. Just see how long you last. And so I just kept and was able to hang on to it.
Not just hang on to it,
I,
obviously with the math there, you obviously continue to get faster throughout the race.
yeah, I also credit the cold weather. As much as I complained about it beforehand, I think it turned out helping. So I guess I was happy with that.
Well, I know that like personally, I we had talked about pacing and everything before, and I kind of gave you that range of where I thought that you could be, and I think you were even now you sell yourself short at least a little bit. I mean, I think that we talked about like the 2:0 something is what I was expecting, but this really everything came together super well for you on race day. 2:05, more than 10 minutes off that PR that you had just set not that long ago, and the fastest female runner. And if the viewers are not familiar, the Houston Marathon is a big race. Like it's one of the premier races each year. I guess once you cross the line, you see it. You don't realize at that point that you're the fastest female runner over 70, but for you, when you cross the line, you see 2:05. What did that mean for you?
I was very surprised because I mean, I never looked at the accumulated time throughout the whole race. All I ever looked at was my pace, and that's all I was concerned about. I was afraid to look at accumulated time, of feeling afraid that if I was way off, that I would be so disappointed and it would get in my head and mess me up the rest of the way. So all I looked at ever was the pace. And then when I got to the finish line and pressed the button and it said 2:05, I thought, wow, had no idea. And for once I was happy, because normally for me, when I finish a race, all I ever say is I did okay or I did terrible. But for once I was happy.
Well, and obviously this is something that we've worked on with you, not just your fitness, but also how we talk to ourselves. But the next big goal we got coming up here. We got the 50th anniversary of Grandma's Marathon, which is also in your home state of Minnesota. This was the marathon that you did last year, and it was just over 5 hours. For this one, going back to your home state for the 50th anniversary, we're about to get started with your training plan here for this. For you personally, just I know that you talked about it, that you really wanted to do the 50th of Grandma's Marathon. What does that race mean for you and being able to do this in your home state?
First, because of the result that I had last year, I'm looking at this as a do-over. I have revenge in mind. I want to prove to myself mostly that I can do better than what I did. I learned from my mistakes. I got a lot of things that I plan to correct and um, hopefully do better this year. But also, like you mentioned, it's the 50th anniversary, so I'm expecting they'll do some extra fun things. That's always something to look forward to. But also, as another fun thing about grandmas, that if you are an actual grandma, they put your name on a special list of grandmas that are running the marathon, and they put your list inside the grandma's restaurant, which is right at the finish line. So that's also something very different and fun.
And Leah's selling herself short. You cut almost 44 minutes off that Twin City Marathon from when you ran last year, and I think you were the second fastest in your age group, if I remember correctly. So obviously you have a big goal here. You were right at just over 5 hours last time. You mentioned things that you already know that you've improved, things that you want to change. Approaching this now with that confidence, clarity, your body feeling super strong. How do you just feel as we're about to start this training block to get ready for this race in terms of your confidence level?
Well, I know races always teach us something. I've learned again a lot from my mistakes. And first and foremost, the mistake that I made was always listen to your coach. You told me to do certain things and I did not do them. I did what typically happens when you start the race. You're just all full of energy and I went out way too fast. That was my number one mistake. So I hope to do better with that this year. I am learning to be a little bit, just in small increments, just be a little bit more confident in my ability. So that's a big leap for me.
Well, awesome. And then I guess just for anybody who's watching this, maybe they're hearing your story and it sounds familiar to them, or they're feeling maybe stuck or frustrated. What would you say to someone in that situation who, again, maybe might be feeling like their best days are behind them, or they're feeling stuck or frustrated with it? What would you say to anybody in that scenario?
Well, especially someone in my age group with my experience, it was a little extra push for me to get out of my comfort zone and come and ask for your coaching help. I've never been coached before, so this has been a whole different experience for me, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm glad to have you for the coaching help that you provide. And from the past, I know the generic plans, they were okay. They were enough to get you started and get you into that pattern of consistently running and trying different things. But I learned after a while they weren't enough. I needed more specific help and finally decided I think I'm ready to try it.
Well, awesome. Well, Lee's story is exactly what we do here at Freedom Running Club, removing that pain, confusion, and doubt in you and as a runner at any, part of the stage that you are in your running journey. So if any part of Lee's journey resonates with you, sounds familiar, feeling stuck, dealing with that pain or unsure of what to do, visit our website, which is go.freedomrunningclub.com. Learn a little bit about what we do. You can even set up a free consultation on there. But what we really believe in is what we do is we empower athletes to safely achieve their goals with proven, customized methods. And Lee, you're exactly a testament to that. So we really appreciate you having that confidence to come and ask us for help, and also for allowing us to help you in all the steps along the way. And let's go get that BQ time here at Grandma's Marathon in June.
Thank you. I'm ready for it.